Well, good morning, everyone. How are you? It was a little lackluster. Let's try that one more time. How is everybody this morning? Surely you're excited to learn about financial literacy today, right? Uh, Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, welcome to Money Talks. This program is funded by the Georgia Secretary of State's office. My name is Art Terrell. I'm program director and host at a small radio station in Atlanta called Smooth Jazz 101, Smooth Jazz 100. It's an honor to be here with you Nighthawks today. Any Nighthawks in here? Any Nigel the Nighthawks fan in here? Okay, all right. All right, we're thrilled to be here and host this financial literacy program at the University of North Georgia. I'd like to welcome to the stage someone that was key in making this happen. She is Miss Nuala Zaharis. She is a Division Director of Securities and Charities at the Georgia Secretary of State's office. Please give Ms. Zaharis a big welcome. Thank you very much.
For having us here. I told your dean that this school is very special to me. My son graduated from the school in 2013. He was in the Corps. I had two other children at different other Georgia schools, and this school was my favorite university. And so we're so happy. I'm so happy we're here. As Art said, I'm the division director for the Securities, Charities, and Cemeteries actually division. Many people think that the Georgia Secretary of State is basically just elections, but actually we do a lot with businesses, because if you have a business, if you're going into a profession, you're going to come through our agency. We have corporations, obviously elections, professional licensing, then of course our division. Our division, the Securities Division, deals with the financial space. You're investing, who is investing your money, what kind of offerings or investments are being pitched to you. So we oversee that, we regulate that, but we also are charged with protecting and educating our Georgian investors. So as part of the education program, we have our financial literacy program. We started out with a program called She Leads, which is to empower women on finance and how to manage their money and how to become entrepreneurs. That led into FinFit, which is a program educating emerging and current entrepreneurs on how to successfully, fund and keep their business going. And then we decided, wow, let's go into the schools, the colleges and the high schools and talk about money, because money is fluid, as you all know. It comes in and it goes out, comes in, it goes out. What we're here to do to provide these programs is to help educate you on how you can control that flow. You want to be in charge of your money and where it goes. So our program today, Money Talks, we have three, she's on her way in, professionals that are very good at what they do. They've been where you are, so they can speak directly to you. And I'm going to hand it over. Thank you for having us. Oh, wait, by the way, we have a lot of resources that we brought. This is for you to take. They are also online on our website. If you go to the Georgia Secretary's website and go to our securities page, there are digitized versions of those. We are continuing to do publications, so more are coming. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nuala. And we're going to continue first by introducing you to this panel of experts that we've assembled today. And we will start with Ms. Salida Bell, who is sitting next to me. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Hey, good morning, everyone. It's such an honor to be here among all of you amazing future business owners, leaders. So my name is Salida Bell. I am the president of the Bell Consultants. Right out of business school, I went into business for myself, and I loved writing, so I combined my passion for business and writing and started a professional business writing service firm specializing in business plan and grant writing. And since then, I've had the opportunity to work with small business owners throughout the United States and even internationally, helping them to gain funding and to expand their business at different stages. And so that's partly why I'm here today in front of all of you. Thanks for having me.
All right. Next, I know she's getting settled. Okay, she's ready. Next is our expert, Miss Ebony Francis. Tell us who you are and what you can share with our crowd today.
Okay, good. Is it morning still? Is it afternoon?
Yeah, we're
I'm
well,
sorry,
well, a
I'm
little
so
bit
out of breath.
afternoon.
I
It's
literally
okay.
was running inside the building. How is everyone? Good, good, awesome. So my name is Ebony Francis. I own an accounting firm called Avesta Corp, where we offer tax, bookkeeping, accounting services to small businesses, mid-sized and small businesses. Um, Recently, we started tapping into the private equity space for businesses to grow and expand through acquisitions and mergers, which is awesome for a lot of the clients because there are a lot of companies that are selling because people want to retire, and it gives some of the business owners an opportunity to tap into new markets with their growth. And so it's so amazing. So in addition to that, because I'm now in the private equity space, I've become an angel investor. So I'm actually able to fund some of my clients to get to do their expansions, right? And then I don't charge them any equity. So I've leveraged the accounting firm like, hey, I will fund you a little bit of interest, but in return to allow my accounting company to be your accounting, to do your books. So that's how that's going. And so it's amazing. But I'm grateful to be here with you all this morning, and I look forward to sharing some of the knowledge that I've learned through my experience and with the customers that I now serve. Okay.
Thank you, Ebony. And last but not least, on the very end is Leanne Francis Crayport. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what we're going to share with our group today.
Awesome. Thanks, Art. Hey, everybody. My name is Leanne Crayport. I am a senior consultant at Deloitte. Deloitte, you'll probably hear of as an accounting firm primarily. I'm in our consulting side, so I work with our military and government clients. So I've been doing that since I left Georgia Tech in 2018. So I'll date myself a little bit. I was part of our College of Business, and I got to participate in a very early financial literacy class, and it has helped me light years. So hoping to share a little bit of what I've both learned in that class, learned through my experience, and what I have royally messed up, so that you guys don't have to make the same mistakes as well.
That's awesome. So let's just jump right into our discussion about practical money skills. I'm going to start with Ebony. Can you give some insight on how to make decisions about money?
Right. So when you're making decisions about money, first, you're supposed to identify the type of money that you are generating to be able to really make long-term and short-term goals. And if you know that you're not making enough to reach those goals, then you want to kind of plan for, jobs or freelance type of work to generate that income to reach your goals. But in doing that, you kind of really have to strategize. What are you good at? What do you like doing? What are you passionate about? You don't want to get stuck in a work location where you don't really like what you do, but it pays the bills, right? So you want to be smart about where you end up, or you can leverage where you work. What if you don't like the job, but you make a lot of money, right? I remember being in corporate and I hated my job, but I made a lot of money, right? No one told me, hey, just save X amount of dollars, create an exit strategy, right? Put some money up, create an exit strategy, have a plan in place, and then go do what you want to do. So sometimes you're not always in a position to act right then, but you can plan. And in order to plan, you do have to budget and set some goals.
Leanne, what is a financial plan and when is a good time to learn how to implement one?
Now. In short, so a financial plan, there's a couple of different options that you have. What I always recommend is to think short-term and long-term. I think short-term in terms of like 6 months or less. Like life changes pretty rapidly. Think through, where do I want to be 6 months from now? What am I looking to do? Are you looking to go on a trip? Are you looking to do a study abroad? Are you looking to pay off credit card debt? Long-term then, thinking, I try not to go too crazy far because yeah, you could try to plan your life from now until you're 60. You're just not going to be able to plan for everything. Things come up, things change. So I like to think in like a 5-year window. Where do I want to be 5 years from now? Where do I want to go? What am I looking to do? So let's say, in a couple of years from now, you want to move to a different city. You want to go to New York. All right, well, rent is going to be crazy expensive. So how do you plan for that? Where do you look for? What do you want to live in? Do you want to have roommates? Thinking about your lifestyle. So short term being in that 6 months range, think through a budget. Think through how much money am I bringing in and how much is going out. Keep it really simple for yourself. So you're able to think through, all right, these are my top 2 or 3 short-term things, 2 or 3 long-term ideas, and then start doing some math to see A plus B has to equal C at the end of the day. You can spend more than you make, but that puts you in massive debt, and we will gladly talk about the risk of that. But that's how I recommend thinking through short-term and long-term.
Now, Leanne touched on it, but Ebony, what are the benefits of creating short-term and long-term financial plans? And give us some examples.
Okay, so there are some benefits in creating short-term or long-term plans. Let's just use short-term. You guys are college students. How many of you own a car that you paid for? Oh, wow. So I'm sure you had to work right and save your money and stick to a strict budget. And once you saved up enough, you were able to go and get that car. I remember when I bought my second car, the first one was a car note. I was over my head, but the second one I decided to do a cash car. And so I think I worked 2 jobs and I was able to save up enough money. I'm laughing because I only spent $1,000 for the cash car, and it took me 3 months to save up for it. But it was part-time work, both jobs, so I didn't really make a lot. But long story short, I was able to buy that cash car within 3 months. That was just like a short-term goal. But the next goal was for me to get an apartment. So now that I have my car, I don't have a car note, I can spend more money on getting a 1-bedroom apartment, got a little bit more wiggle room. I had to start then saving for getting an apartment. And that took me about 6 months to make sure I had enough money to apply for an apartment, to be able to get in and at least have a bed, right? But those are the type of things that you want to look at your short-term and long-term goals. Your other long-term goals could really be something planning for college, your first year in college. I have a niece and a nephew that are in their second year of college, but their first year, they didn't really plan that well. They blew through a lot of their extra funds and scholarship money. And so this semester, second year, is looking a little iffy for them. So just make sure you know how much you're going to need for living, for eating, for hanging out, and don't party every weekend.
Did you say no partying on the weekend?
Don't party every weekend, not every, just
Okay.
choose a weekend per budget.
Okay, all right. So we're going to shift gears in just a second, but I wanted to remind you today's presentation will have a Q&A part, and there is a microphone in the center of the room if you have any questions when we get to that point in today's presentation. How many of you have actually talked to a representative at a bank about financial services? If you have, just raise your hand. Okay, we're on the way. Salita, could you please share some insights on the range of financial services and products that banks offer and how college-level business students can leverage these services to enhance their personal finances and potentially support their future career and maybe even business endeavors?
All right, that's a long question.
Nice long question.
I'll try to catch as much of it as I can. I saw only a few hands. Oh, I'm sorry. I only saw a few hands went up when Art asked that question. How many of us have a relationship with a local banker? That was good to see. The World Bank says that 1.7 billion people globally are unbanked. And so I'm assuming, though, that even though we don't have a relationship with our banker, we have savings accounts, check-ins accounts, credit card accounts. Show of hands, just, okay, good. So we have check-ins. So we're banked here, we're banked, okay. So when we're shopping for those products, those are the main products that your local banks would offer. And if you're working, you need your checkings accounts, that's where you get paid. You're saving for a future goal. As Ebony and Leon discussed, you'll have your savings accounts for that. And we can go into credit card products. Those are the main products. And then we can go into loans for future, whether you're a loan to cover your student expenses or what have you, secure a new car. Maybe your life changes are happening once you graduate, a wedding or major life events. So those are some of the products your banks would offer. One of the bits of advice I would give when you're shopping for these products, because you are the customer and you want to ask your banks like, hey, with my checking account, do you have any products where I don't get hit with monthly fees? Or if there are fees, what are the overdraft fees? So collectively we paid, I want to say 9.9 billion in overdraft fees. Not me, not you, but collectively around the US, 9.9 billion in overdraft fees. That's a lot of money for the banks to make. And so we want to be mindful of that. And that's why that leans into budgeting and making sure that we're monitoring what's happening. I think technology makes it so easy for us to take our phones out and check our accounts and make sure we're on top of everything. But also there are different apps for budgeting and things like that. So we want to stay on top of what's coming in, what's going out. And I like Ebony's advice with the partying or what have you, being careful. How much am I spending when I go out on the weekends? How much did I budget for fun? I think that's an important thing to do. So the main products are your check-ins, your savings, and then there are loan products. And of course, there are another range of products that you can consider when you're looking at mortgages and things like that when you get to that point. Maybe some of you are already there, I'm not sure, but those are the main products.
Great information. Now, I don't know about you all, but as soon as I got to college at Georgia State, for some reason, I was on everybody's radar, and mailers started coming in left and right. It was long before DMs and emails. So this next topic is going to kind of touch on that. Have any of you actually received mailers or posts from different companies about services, credit cards? Have you received any of that information now that you're in college? Yeah. Felt like I was invisible until I got to college, and they came out of everywhere. So let's talk about that for a second. Ebony, how do you use credit and credit cards wisely?
Well, the credit cards you're spending someone else's money. Always remember that. And can you afford to pay them back? So you shouldn't spend other people's money without any intentions of paying it back. Not only that, your credit card utilization is how your credit factors come in and determine if you're eligible for future funding or future other credit cards, depending on how you're spending. So you want to always stay within 10% or less. And then if you just really want to use it to build your credit, use it to buy small things like gas or a meal or some hygiene products, and pay your balance off before it's even due, right? That'll help increase your score. So when you are at a place where you want to make a big purchase, then you don't have creditors telling you no because of your past irresponsible payment history. So you want to build good credit by only spending what you can afford to spend and making sure that you're going to have those funds on reserve to pay it back immediately prior to it being due. If you don't have it, don't spend it. And I get that sometimes you have an emergencies, or sometimes there's something that you really want to do and that's the only money you have access to. But take it from someone who at one point had 20 different credit cards. I'll try to go over a few. I had Discover, American Express, Citibank, Barclay, TJ Maxx, Home Goods, Home Depot, American Eagle. The list goes on, right? Chase, just all these different, Amazon. I didn't need all those credit cards. I got them because I could. And then what happened? I left corporate America and fell in a slump of debt and could not keep up with the payments. I was smart initially. I paid everything off. I made sure I was good, but looking for new work, there was such a huge delay that I started living off my credit cards. You don't want to get to a point where you're living off your credit cards and it keeps you in a bad place of debt that is hard for you to dig yourself out of. So make sure you're just responsible and not only applying to credit cards, but making sure that you're maintaining them.
The thought of 26 credit cards stresses me out.
For the
It
record,
stresses
I only
me out.
have one now.
I figured. Okay, Salida, is credit the only avenue to secure loans, credit cards, or lines of credit?
It's not the only avenue, but you do want to make sure that you are mindful of, I think, Ebony, you leaned into a lot of that, paying down those balances. And I love that you went with 10% because I think the recommendation is under 30, but I think 10 is even better. But let's say you don't have credit as yet or what have you, and you need to purchase your first car. You may have to reach out to mom or dad or grandma and say, hey, can you co-sign? They're asking for a co-signer. And so that can help with it. But if you don't have that as an option, you want to start building credit now. You may reach out to mom or dad or someone with great credit and say, hey, can you add me as an authorized user? That'll help to bump my score as I'm building credit or what have you. So, but it's not the only avenue. You can seek out a co-signing option. Maybe you did very well in high school and you worked a second job and you have a savings and you can lean into that. But if not, you would have to perhaps go with a co-signer.
And Salida, also, how should one monitor their credit factors?
Yes, absolutely. So going back to technology, technology is amazing. Most of your banks will offer you the option of, as you log in, you can see where your score is at. If there are any changes, you may get notifications. I love Credit Karma. Everyone may have their favorite or what have you. When it comes to checking credit, your credit factors, I want to say it's freecreditscore.com. They may be the only one that's federally supported when it comes to getting all three annually. And so that's a place to go where you can see every single detail from all three bureaus. So that's highly recommended as well.
Can you lock your credit report to prevent identity fraud?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think girls may have some insight on that one, but yes, you can reach out to the bureaus directly and ask them to, hey, I want to go ahead and lock my credit report. I don't need anyone checking my scores, or to protect against identity theft and fraud as well. And I don't know if Ebony or Leanne want to add to that.
Okay, this was my crystal sin that I made very early on outside of college. I signed up for a new credit card, didn't realize, and have since then run through a gamut. I'm on someone's list and I want to get off of it. So if they're out there, please stop it. I had 3 of my bank accounts hacked, 5 of my credit cards, and recently another one. Hooray. Yay for the name change though. Getting married has helped. Now my name is different. They can't find me as easily. It has been a nightmare. So my 2 cents for anybody, lock your credit score. When you're going to buy a car, get a mortgage, ask for another credit card, don't be afraid to look up the number and call a human. It is much easier than filling out a form online, signing up for something quickly. It will help you also to verify that it is the actual organization that you're trying to sign up with and it's not something else. Locking your credit score will also help you get flagged if someone is trying to do that. So that has been a absolute lifesaver for me when trying to close bank accounts, move money around. All of a sudden I'm out $4,000 or $5,000. Oh, I'm out another $6,000 here. It's not fun to cover thousands of dollars when you're kind of penny pinching at that point. I was like, $600 to me is a big deal. Obviously, I have great banks, I have great credit cards, so they were able to get me my money back that wasn't spent. But it was probably a year and a half of me hunting for my own money back. Lock your credit score, unlock it and unfreeze it when you go to make a major purchase, but ask if they're doing soft pulls or hard pulls. If you're going to buy a car, they're most likely going to do a hard pull to actually figure out how much you can afford. Ask that. That does hit your credit score and it will affect it. But then you can be totally in charge of your money and not be like Leanne.
And I want to make sure I correct myself real quick. It's annualcreditreport.com because there are several of them out there. That's the one that's federally supported.
Okay. And Salita, could you please share your insights on the decision-making process for borrowing money and obtaining loans? What are the key factors that should be considered, and what are the primary reasons individuals might choose to do so?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first piece of advice I'd give, don't borrow what you don't need. It has to make sense. So if you're getting ready, if maybe you may get a call from someone, hey, we're giving out a loan, or you pre-qualify for a loan of $25,000. If you're not needing a loan at that time, then decline. Only borrow what you need. I think it's important too, as we talked about short-term goals and long-term goals, plan for your borrowing as well. And this leans also into the relationship with your local bankers. So currently I have 2 businesses. One of my businesses turned a year old. It's a family therapy practice. And so I'm planning for and anticipating for our growth stage that we will need funding. So already a year out, I'm reaching out to potential lenders, and I want to hear what are your prerequisites? What are you looking for? What would you need my statements to look like? What do you want things to look like when I'm, taking that step? And so that's what planning looks like. So in your personal life, I mentioned like maybe a wedding or a major event that you're planning for, or a trip after graduation, you want to treat yourself or what have you. If you don't have that cash, that might be something you may say, hey, I think it's worth it for me to get a loan or whatever that is. And so you want to plan for it, make it make sense, and make sure that you are able to pay that back, because you don't want to ruin your credit after securing that loan. It's easy to build it, and once you mess it up, it's hard to get back on track. So I shouldn't even say it's easy to build, but it's hard to fix it once you've messed it up. So you just take some of this advice we learn from us and you know, make the best decisions, but don't borrow what you don't think you'll be able to pay back.
I love it. Credit and loans both look good when they hit your account, but if you run into a situation where you can't pay it back, whether you lose a job or a life incident happens, that's when it becomes a little bit more difficult, and people look at your credit from that point forward. Some students like to or have to make extra income while attending college. Salida, why is it important for these wage earners to have a personal budget once they start earning an income?
Yeah, so I mentioned, is it 9.9 billion in overdraft fees or what have you? If we don't have a personal budget and we're taking out more than we have in our account, then we're going to run into fees, unbalanced checkbooks or what have you, and it's not a good look. You have the opportunity once again, to plan ahead, anticipate expenses, stay on top of them, and it's a part of it is self-control as well, making sure that you're not spending more and you're not spending based on impulse or what have you, and you're really just in control of, it's your future, it's your life, you're in control of it, and so a budget helps you with that. So I don't know if any of the other ladies want to add to that.
I mean, always. I think the biggest thing with, at this point in time in my college career, I was solely just trying to avoid spending money. I did work other jobs, and I'm sure we'll chat about it here soon. So I was making some money, but my biggest goal was just minimize how much I was spending. So looking at your budget, and like everybody said up here earlier, like budget for fun, budget for entertainment, budget to enjoy your life currently. But understanding what you're spending is half of the battle. If you play ignorant to it, then you're going to let it consume you rather than vice versa. So track what you're spending. Look at what you're doing. Am I spending $500 a month eating out? Am I spending $100? Am I spending $1,000? What's that range? What's your tolerance? And we'll talk, I'm sure, a little bit more about side income as well.
Well, since you have the microphone now and the stage, how do you do your personal budgeting now versus before you had your salary and steady income, of course?
A salary is beautiful.
Salary.
You guys will definitely feel the difference. So like I said, minimize your expenses. So how do you minimize them? You have to know what they are. So I use an app called Mint. I integrated all of my credit cards, all of my bank accounts into it. Fun fact, if you want to get into the nerdy cyberspace, it's secured by Plaid. Plaid is a company that does several of the business-to-business banking movement. So they are also behind the Zelle, Bank of America transactions, all that kind of stuff. So it is a secure platform. Had to convince my folks of that when they're like, not so sure about that. So I integrate everything there. What I do is, and it's so lovely, does the math for me. So I can sit there and go based on my credit card and go, I went to Dunkin', that's coffee. Oh, I went here, that's this. Oh, I went to Costco, that's groceries. And you get to sort it. It will start automatically sorting all of your expenses for you. I'm sure y'all frequent the same places like I do. So you'll start to be able to grab your phone and be able to go, how much have I spent in food this month? Pull it up and go, ooh, shoot, that's a little higher than last month. But you're able to start understanding what you're spending and see what you're looking for. I think when you're a salaried or even hourly employee and you're making full-time money, life shifts a little bit to going, okay, this is how much I have and this is how much I can spend, and you can set a little bit stronger goals. If you are working and you're making money while you're in school, or even better, you're not paying tuition because you got lucky and got a scholarship or have another opportunity, that will obviously set you apart and set you up for success later. But the biggest thing is just start tracking what you're looking at. Talk to your friends. Don't be afraid to grab someone that you trust and go, what are you spending? What does this look like for you? Open money conversations will help you. And it also will help, I think you guys all have these friends. I have half my friend group that we go out to dinner and they're all like, we're all paying our own way, right? Okay, great. Then I have the other group of friends where they decide we're going to split no matter what. And then my girlfriend over here gets 4 cocktails. I didn't drink tonight. And then somebody else had like an appetizer. And you're like, okay. have conversations with people and go, hey, I'm going to buy my own way. Don't be afraid to just state what you want and your intentions to be able to own your money. Don't be afraid to have a conversation with that friend. Or if you're conflict averse like myself, just state what you want and go, hey, I'm buying my own bill tonight, and tell the waiter like, hey, I'll do my own check. Those little things will help you to understand and maybe get ahead of some of the social awkwardness that comes with money, eating out, and being with friends, especially in college.
That's some great advice.
It's awkward, but it's
Yeah,
fun.
a little awkward. I will go to the waiter first. Leanne, since we've talked a lot about money, there's one word we have not mentioned yet. It is the word taxes. And why are taxes a critical part of your financial planning?
Because they're horrible to
Yes, they are.
and afterwards. Plan for them. So go and look and see what you qualify for. If you've done your taxes in the past, take a look and see what you've spent. If you're a first year and you're looking for, I don't know what it's going to look like this year, take a guess at how much money you're going to be bringing in. So if you have a part-time job, like I was an academic tutor for the athletic association, so I roughly knew how much I made an hour, and I was able to start looking up, okay, what would that cost me? To be completely candid, when you're paying tuition and whatnot, it should be in the lower end, but you never know on your situation. I roughly say like 30% of my money is not mine. So when I take a look at that, I go, okay, I can't spend that. Even if, so I had a couple of jobs that they paid me and then I had to go file separately and they'd give me a 1099 at the end of the year. So they're like, we know you did this, but we just didn't take any of the money out of your salary. I had to double check, and I actually created a separate bank account where I funneled money monthly into. So I knew that I had the cash and I wasn't going to touch it. So when it came due, I could pay, I was on time. If you have money that comes out of your paycheck based on your employer and you're making money, double check and see what they're withholding from you. I think it's in your I-9. I'm probably saying that wrong. That is the document that you can determine what is being deducted from your taxes. Talk to your employer, ask for HR for help if you have any questions about how much you should withhold. All of that will help you. Nothing is worse than doing what my husband did last year. He's got his own business, and all of a sudden he's like, I have to cut a $9,000 check. I'm like, you have to what? Those are the things you want to avoid and be early and upfront with as soon as you possibly can.
Making good financial decisions can impact your financial independence. A good financial habit is to start saving early in college. Now, we're all saving, right? Everybody here is saving? Okay, by and large. Okay, I like that. Leanne, what are some easy and practical ways to save when you're spending way more than you're making?
I'm sorry, Leah, to interrupt. I just want to add a comment that may be helpful to you all. You're college students, so if you're working part-time, you can do exempt, right? But if you have taxes coming out, just so you know, if your parents is filing you on their taxes because they're supporting you through college, there is something called dependent of another. You can still file any taxes you paid out to your from working. That money could be refunded back to you as college students, but you have to file as a dependent of another. You have to have the conversation with your parents, make sure that the tax accountant is aligned with everyone. So I just wanted to share that with you.
That's why we have you here. Our savings, we're talking savings.
It's quite all right. What are some easy and practical ways to save when you're spending more than you're earning?
All right, where you hold your money is the easiest spot. I'll keep this one short. Look up high yield savings accounts, okay? Typically the best rates you're gonna get are from online banks. So you're gonna hear like American Express, Capital One, Discover. They have higher interest rates than a standard savings account. So if you're just looking for a place to house your money because you know it's like very fluctuating and in and out, I mean, I graduated college with $100 in my bank account. I was just looking to maximize my interest. So the biggest thing that I did is I opened a Capital One account. I actually still use it. So right now I think I'm like 4% interest. It might be higher now versus my other bank that I have is 0.01%. If you're going to have money at all and you're not shoving it into retirement accounts or able to save aggressively, use a high yield savings account. If your money is sitting there, at least it's making better interest than it was in another account. It's the simplest and easiest way when you're a little tighter on funds.
And Ebony, what are some great tips for saving money and creating a budget?
Okay, so anytime you're making money, you already know that you have bills and responsibilities to take care of, right? So you're going to be budgeting for that. Anything that you have left over, a portion of that, if you can, of course, you want it to go towards savings. But before you put anything in savings, try to pay yourself first, so you have money for you, right? That way, you're not tempted to go in and deplete all the savings. So you have the money for you have the money for savings, and then all of your bills are still being paid, right? And then if you are budgeting where you can't really save right now, then prepare for that in the future. But even if it's only $5 or $10, every pay period, that may add up. And then your college students, there's a lot of work from home jobs. There's a lot of creative things that you can do on your own for freelance income. Just try to look into some other resources to generate income while you're in college. There are some sources out there that can help you accomplish that. I don't think we had online work from home options
No.
when we were in school, but now that if I can go back and we had those options, I probably would have been a full-time student with 2 to 3 work from home jobs online. So, but yeah, just coordinate your bills, put money aside for your savings, and always pay you first, so that way you feel like you have money that you can spend on yourself.
Yeah, I'm sure most of the students here are aware of the various types of investing. And Leanne, I was just curious because there are so many platforms these days, and they actually market to young adults, places like Webull and so many more. Did you invest while you were in college?
Kind of. So the way I invested is I went for my retirement account. So when I made money from an internship and I was focusing on like, okay, how do I put money away? I wasn't eligible for a 401k through my employer, but because I was making income, anything, I think $6,000 or $6,500 is now the golden number for a Roth IRA. So you can put up to $6,500 in your own personal Roth IRA, which is post taxes. When you put the money in, that means it's also post taxes when you pull it out, so you don't have to pay it later. But I made more than that. So I put as much as I could into that account and I invested that. I just went standard, like I did a I think Charles Schwab even like gives you an offering for like, hey, here's how to balance your portfolio. And I was like, yes, sure. And I let it ride with the market. That has been my biggest growth in investment. I looked into other things and I got a little uncomfortable, and I think that's what we'll chat through.
Well, I think that's the next topic, actually.
Oh my gosh, yes, I'm good at this.
Is anybody here familiar with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency? If you are, just show of hands, please. Okay, let's see if Leanne knows a little bit about this. Can you give some insight on investing with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency?
So fun fact, I'm legally going to say this. I am not allowed to invest in that with my current company. Anyway, I looked at it at one point and was incredibly uncomfortable because I was like, I've heard of this thing. I have a bunch of friends that are investing with it. I don't know what it is. I don't know how you harvest Bitcoin. I was so lost. So my recommendation is if you want to invest in Bitcoin, if you want to get into cryptos, like there is money to be made there, like any market and every investment. My biggest thing is if you don't know what the product is, never buy it. That applies to your cell phone, that applies to investments and anything in between. So if you're interested, do the research. What is Bitcoin? What are the different cryptocurrencies? What are the different ways that they're created? How are they exchanged? All of the risks, just be aware of them. There's a risk with any purchase or any investment that you make. Just be aware of what it is. Bitcoin and cryptos for me, I started looking at it, I was like, I don't feel like I understand it enough to make an intelligent decision about when I should leave the market. And that's when I was like, if I'm not comfortable, then I'll stick with my traditional stocks and bonds that I learned in my investment classes to go, I understand how those work. I could go grab, God bless my accounting professor who taught me to be able to look at a balance sheet, to be able to look at cash flow statements and understand what a business does. Now, do I do that all the time? No. Should I? Probably. But I have a greater understanding and felt more comfort in that. And that's where I focused my investment strategy.
Salida, what are other types of investments and your best tips for investing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I didn't go the route Leanne went. I barely knew anything about it. I just knew a lot of my friends was making a ton of money, especially 2020, 2021 from Bitcoin. So I jumped in, especially Dogecoin at that time or what have you. So I was able to get in early. But the biggest thing I would say is I did scale back and I took the time to learn more about it and diversifying. I think what Leanne mentioned, like those stocks, I think you can't go wrong with the traditional investing or what have you. And if you want to be a bit more risky, then you're leaning more into the coins. I would say the biggest piece of advice is don't spend what you're not, if you want that money on Friday, do not put it in and think it's going to grow. Do not invest anything that you think you're going to need. Be prepared to lose it. And so with me, what I do is my monthly savings, I don't exactly go with Ebony's method. I save first and then spend. I think it's helped me more. I think that's Warren Buffett's advice, but I was only able to do that when I became more financially stable. So I think Ebony's method works as well if it's $5, $10. I remember my first savings, I think it was like $5 or $10 that I put in, and it grows. Same with investment. Started with about $10, $15, and then I got more and more comfortable. Currently, I save, and a portion of my savings go into investing, and that's diversified. I think Ali Bank is one of them too that does that automatically for you, and you kind of tell them if you want to be like in the medium, you want to be aggressive, or what have you. I love them. Their savings is, I think it's Discover's 4.35%, and then Ali's a little higher. So I would say sit down and really do your research and you have to get to a point where you feel very comfortable with what you're doing and what you're investing in, but it's your responsibility to also learn about those products.
So I know some of you may have jobs and some are waiting until you graduate, but it's never too early to start thinking about retirement. The sooner you start investing, the better off you'll be a little bit later on in life. So Leanne, let's have a quick discussion about Roth IRAs, 401ks, SEP IRAs, and traditional IRAs as well.
How many letters can we throw out?
That's a lot of letters.
Okay, so we'll do a quick crash course. A Roth IRA is after taxes. So you pay your taxes and then you're paying it with the money that you have post-tax. So that is for you to invest. When you pull the money out, it is for you. When we're talking about a traditional IRA, it is the inverse of that. You get to deduct it from your taxes. However, you have to pay taxes when you pull the money out. The 401k is traditionally an employer-supported option. There are other ways to get one. My recommendation is ask about that when you're doing interviews for jobs. Ask for their benefits package. So you want to know about their health care, you want to know about their 401k, you want to know if they're doing a match. My company's match was god-awful, and they finally started to improve, and I appreciate that. If your company gives you a match, take it. It's basically free money. It's an automatic return on your investment. So my firm, I believe we are 3%. They match 50% of that. So they basically give me a free 50% on my money. So I maximize that rate out every year. So I maximize how much money I'm getting from them and then invest. That is also post-taxes, or pre-taxes. You have to pay your taxes on that when you pull it out. And then SEP IRAs, my husband has one. He is an independent contractor, runs his own baseball coaching company. And his business then, he's paying himself. He's trying to go, how do I save for retirement outside of a Roth IRA? Because there's a cap. You can only put so much money in that every year. So he opened up an SEP IRA, and that is for independent contractors or folks that are working freelance jobs to be able to put more money aside for retirement because they don't have other options. There's tons of products out there with tons of different firms. So go looking around and see what your rates can be. And I recommend don't have 55 different banks. Try to streamline it a little bit.
Every decision you make can affect your finances. Things like the cost of professional certifications, income potential, and even the area you decide to settle in can have a strong impact on your financial success. Salida, how will your career choices impact your income, and how can they maximize their income when they embark on their career paths?
That's a great question. I'm hoping all of you here know exactly what you want to do once you graduate. Anyone going the corporate route, own business?
We got like a couple.
Already own your business? No one is yet? Okay. Getting there, getting there. Okay, so when you are thinking of a career, like where am I going? I would say start with lifestyle. What do I want my lifestyle to look like? What am I on the humble side? And a big house doesn't matter or what have you. Do I want to stay in Georgia? Do I want to stay in the neighborhood that I currently am in? I think that's a great place to start, understanding what you want that. Now, truthfully, as we're going through life, that may change, and just know that might mean, okay, I chose this career and this is as much as I can make here. I may have to make another career choice or what have you. But keep that in mind. This is my therapy side coming out, but I would always say if you are not sure, the Myers-Briggs personality assessment is a great place to start to learn a bit more about, well, what careers align with my personality? And that's, you can go to I think it's 16personalities.com or what have you to take, okay. And then it gives you some insight. I'm not saying that they know you more than yourself. It's just, been proven effective or what have you. And that's a great place to start if you're not sure. But if you know you want a certain lifestyle and it calls for ton of money, then we want to look at career fields where that pays that much or what have you. And then you may have some things that you're passionate about, like I'm in business development. I love writing. That changed over the years. I still am in business development, but I'm on the advising. I don't do hands-on business plan writing anymore. I'm also a therapist or what have you. And then there are other things that I want to get into. I love writing still, and I hope to go into, like, I don't know, work with Tyler Perry or in the movies or things like that in the future. So you can still support your passion. You can have a stable career. One thing, this might be outside of your question, but if I can do something over, I wouldn't go straight into business right out of college. I would have perhaps went into corporate, learned a lot, because then I made a lot of my mistake those first 5 years. And I was happy to have graceful clients who stuck with me or what have you. But I would say get your experience. For some of you, that might be in an internship. There are opportunities to do that now, and I'm sure we may touch on some of that or what have you. But explore, get to know yourself better, get to know what might work, but think lifestyle. What do I want my lifestyle to look like? And try to go in that direction. And
Okay.
good luck with that.
We understand some students may be leaving in the next few minutes. So if you have any questions, you could step to the microphone in the center of the room and we can answer those questions in a quick Q&A before you have to leave. Do we have any questions? Okay. Okay, all right. Go right ahead. Just give us your name and give us your question. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Abby. What is some advice that you can give college students who are looking to secure affordable housing out of college? Maybe we don't want to get stuck in the rabbit hole of paying high rent prices.
I'll speak to that because the market here is very, very high, right? And there's not a lot of affordable housing routes. So this is going to be the business consultant, Ebony, coming to you guys. You can collectively create your own affordable housing. You don't have to wait for someone to provide that to you. So for example, I have clients now where we're teaming up together to create affordable housing. And a lot of it is towards the youth and college students, right? So you can create that. All that goes into that private equity space or crowdfunding, where you all can create a group and raise money for the affordable housing, partner with general contractors that know what they're doing, and they can serve as the COO to make sure everything goes through. You can create it. If you know that there's an issue, just get the right people around you, have those right conversations, and go for it.
Second answer is I lived in DC for 4 years. I feel the rent prices were high. Roommates. As much as sometimes you want to live by yourself, I say that as I love my roommate, but the pumpkin guts on my table that were dried when I came home the one day, I was like, really? Roommates are the easiest way to do it. Find people you like, find a good area. Don't be afraid to get creative with how you break up rent. And the biggest expense that I know is like, feel safe wherever you're at, being first and foremost. Secondarily, you can get creative with utilities. That's where I think a lot of my variability comes from. And if you can collectively agree as a roommate crew to keep the AC down or to limit parking spaces, you can drop some of those extraneous costs.
Were there any other questions from the room?
Hey, my name is John, and I was wondering, like for a college student, what are some good platforms for investing as like Vanguard and Fidelity and Charles Schwab and stuff like that if I want to start on investing as early as I can?
Leanne, you want to touch on that?
I would highly recommend any of them. The larger the banks, the biggest thing that you always have to check, FDIC. If you have your money in anything, like make sure it's federally protected. Any of those platforms work. I would find which one works for you. If you primarily like to do investing mobily, like download their apps and check out what it looks like before you move money around. And then secondarily, you can always go into one of their offices and ask. I know that sometimes that's the last thing that we all want to do. I like doing things online. I don't want to talk to a human if I don't have to. But any of the big banks and big platforms will be a less risky option than others.
And Ebony, did you want to add? I know you agree, but did you want to add something to that? That was it? Okay.
Check your sources, and it's okay to have that conversation in person if online is not as clear.
Okay.
And Fidelity is amazing. So I think that's one of them that you mentioned. They're amazing. I'm with them.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another question from the room.
So let's say you went into debt, right? And for like a mortgage, you have to take these courses and everything. For other loans, you know, the emergency happens and you can't make your payment those months. What do you do in those cases?
Ebony, or
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so let me use a real life example right now. I would currently, let's just say that there's a client that owes me $27,000, right? And I was expecting this $26,000 payment to make payroll, and in payroll, that means mine too, right? So that I can pay to move into my new apartment this week. And so the client only decides to make a partial payment. So where am I going to get the money that I need to move in this apartment to meet my first month's rent, plus the security deposit? And so I'm probably going to have to use my credit card or get a loan from a colleague. Sometimes you're going to be in a situation where you can't control what's happening. And so you always want to have a backup plan, whether you can loan money from someone who will give you that grace, or if you do have a credit card and this is an emergency situation, I know the funds are coming. If I have to use it, I will. So sometimes you have to do what you have to do. You just don't want to make don't want to make a habit of bad decisions. But this isn't kind of like a bad decision. This is a situation that you're low on funds, and you kind of have to be creative of how to try to move some other funds around or get some other funds in until you get back to where you need to be.
Salita, did you have some recommendations?
Yeah, I was thinking on the renting side. I know right now, historically, the city of Atlanta is facing the highest amount of evictions ever. And so a lot of people are looking into relief programs where they can have support for that. Maybe they're behind 2-3 months. I know historically they've put people out like much faster than that, but because of COVID. And so look into relief programs as well. They are out there. You have to do some research for your local city or what have you. I don't know specifically what this city may have or where you will move to once you leave here. Hopefully you're never in that position and you can save for that. But as the young lady mentioned, things happen and sometimes we're caught off guard. And so if your credit is up, worst case scenario, maybe you can get a personal loan or what have you. And hopefully you'll never find yourself in that position, but things happen. So
And plan for those payments. Like, let's say you're going $10,000 in debt. Look at what the minimum payment is, figure out what your maximum can be, and figure out how you can make additional payments to that. Like, things happen. You're going to have to roll into it, but make the payments and plan for it. Plan for that interest. Shop for the interest. But my biggest advice that I gave to one of my girlfriends who was struggling with a lot of that at one point was pay your highest interest debt first, then go snowball. So whatever you're paying for your highest, as soon as you clear that out, roll what you were paying for that bill to the next interest. So you keep basically at the end, you'll knock debt out super fast. But don't be afraid, like when it happens, it's okay. Budget for how you can pay that off and think through that interest timeline, and then see if you can snowball to other debts that you may have.
And sometimes they'll allow you to settle your debts too. When I was going through my journey of cleaning up debt, I remember making phone calls to say, "Hey, I don't have this $3,300 I owe you, but I have 14. Will you take it?" And everyone said yes. There was about 3 companies: Discover, Chase. I had 2 Chase credit cards, and they all settled, and I paid them the payment right then and there. So sometimes they will settle with you a fraction of the cost, about 30%, sometimes maybe less, especially if it's been a while since you've made your last payment. So you can always try that as well.
Well, do we have any more questions? All right. Well, let's do a quick lightning round with our panelists. We'll start with Salida. What is one thing you want our students to take away from today, and share some resources that you want them to take a look at?
One of the pieces of advice I'll leave you with is be in control of your finances, your life. And so that calls for researching. We have the internet at our fingertips. So research something. If you're not comfortable with it, go to YouTube, educate yourself on it. Reach out to one of your colleagues, your professors, or what have you, and make sure you're comfortable with it. I know sometimes we do that and then things still don't work out, but at least you do your due diligence. A piece of resource that I'll leave, sometimes I get this wrong, read the book, The Richest Man in Babylon. It might be the wealthiest. Sometimes I forget which one it is. That book was life-changing. And so I tell everyone I run into to read it at least once.
Ebony, what would you like our students to take away?
I would just encourage you all to just take your time. You're still young. You have your whole life ahead of you. There's no rush to make sure you have everything in order to be successful, because you have to go through a lot of trials and errors to get to where you're going. But as long as you equip yourself with the knowledge and the resources and the tools, if you don't have them, you ask the knowledgeable people around you that can point you in the right direction to equip you with the things that you're lacking. But ultimately, just take your time. Your life is ahead of you. Where you are today, you may not be here next year, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Your entire mindset may be totally different. So just take your time to figure out what you want to do with yourself. You can be evolving on a regular basis, and that's okay. Don't allow anyone to make you feel bad about that.
I think Leanne's advice would certainly be to lock your credit. But outside of that, what would you like our students to take away?
Outside of that, so my last bit is I talk with a bunch of my friends. Curate your Instagram to help feed you some of this content. So the Budgetnista, the Financial Diet, and Deeper Than Money are 3 that I follow. Tiffany Alish also has a book out, which is phenomenal. But if you don't want to go reading a financial book yet, curate your Instagram to have a couple of those things feed you content on some of the new things that are coming out, best practices. The Financial Diet puts out stuff that's like, go have your $5 latte. That's fine. But like, think about it in your long-term plan for it. I love them. It's something fresh that pops up infrequently sometimes between the like dog and cat videos that I get pushed, but it's nice to have that content also hitting you, not just when you need to go figure something out, but just subtly while you're constantly looking at something that I'm sure you guys look at daily.
That said, we want to thank you. We want to give you a big thank you for attending today. Hopefully you found this panel discussion informative. And we want to say thank you to the dean and the faculty for supporting this program, and the students and our panelists for providing their expertise. Thank you all so much for coming.